Leaky Tank Thomas. Gator puffed into Brendan Docks. He was cross. Some people were ordering him about. "We have to see Miss Packard for a very important meeting," one grumbled. "It's very important we arrive." "I know just the engine that can deliver you right to Miss Packard," said Cranky. "Thomas, you were to take some very important passengers to see Miss Packard," said a workman. As Thomas puffed along on the highway line, he passed his good friend Rusty. He was carrying a train of rocks when one hit Thomas and dented his boiler. "Thomas, are you all right?" said Rusty. "You should go to the works and have your sides mended." "Please, Thomas, let's go to the works," said Annie. "It's best for your safety," added Clarabelle. But Thomas was cross. "I'm very much just fine," he puffed. "I don't need to go see any workman or go visit Victor at any steamworks," he said. "Are you sure, Thomas?" said Rusty. "I'm surer than sure," puffed Thomas. "I have some very important passengers to collect," he whistled. Rusty chuffed gravely away with a toot of his horn. After Thomas had picked up the special passengers, he was puffing them to see Miss Packard. But then trouble was ahead on the line. Rocky was working with Diesel when Thomas came to a stop. "Bust my buffers," puffed Thomas. "I didn't know that you guys were working here." Diesel was upset. "Well, maybe you should watch where you're going," he grumbled. "I wish I never took that deal with Norman." Then a rock hit Thomas. "Ouch," said Thomas. "Are you all right?" said Rocky. "I can get you out of the muddle in a jiff, after I've finished help Diesel." "No, thank you," said Thomas. The workmen removed Rocky's pillars out of the way. Then other engines rolled by and pushed Thomas out of the way. "Whoa!" puffed Thomas. Everyone noticed how strange Thomas was acting. But Thomas denied it on all counts. "I'm just fine." And he steamed away. Rocky and Diesel were not so sure that their Thomas was just fine, as he proclaimed. But he assured them that he was, so he carried on. Flynn and Stephanie were in works when James arrived. "Hello, Stephanie," he said. "Enjoying your time on Sodor, are you?" "Why, yes, I am." "Hello, James. I'm Flynn. I see you're red. I like that you're red. Red engines are cool. Aren't we a splendid type?" "Yes, indeed," said Stephanie. "There aren't many red engines on the Bluebell Railway." James was cross. "I am the most splendid red engine ever," he said. "You're just an imitation." "Goodbye, Flynn." "But I can fight fires." "And you're magnificent," said Stephanie. But James didn't think so. "I'll show you who's magnificent," he said. "A shiny red tender engine who wears the number 5. What's more splendid than that?" he said. "A fiery red fire engine?" "Don't get me started on stupid jokes," said James. "I'll show you." Flynn and Stephanie could only laugh. "I must show that Flynn who's best," thought James. James saw Diesel. "Hello, Diesel." "Hello, James." "What's the matter?" "I dislike that Flynn," James complained. "He thinks he's the best." Rocky was worried. "Flynn's a very cocky engine, but he's only here to help." "And you're just here to add to my anger, aren't you?" whistled James. Now I'm on a mission to show Flynn who's the better red engine. Now, any ideas? You could hide Flynn's trailer, said Diesel. And that's just what I'll do, said James. Flynn's not so useful without that trailer to fight his fires now, is he? And James waited and waited while the workmen worked on Rocky, and he puffed quickly away once he had his load. But you must be discreet, said Diesel. You're not so sneaky as I am. So Topham Hatt was talking to Miss Jenny. I've heard that there are some very important passengers here to see you. Yes, there are, said Miss Jenny. We're discussing very important plans that will help benefit your railway. Well, in that case, have you heard about my new busing service that I've ordered? And a new taxi line and a whole line of race cars? We're going to make Soda a very splendid island for tourists and attractions, said the Fat Controller. Well, Alfie's already drawing up plenty of attractions, said Miss Jenny. All the newcomers are, said the Fat Controller. Even Blake, and especially Flynn. All the other engines seem to really like Flynn. I don't see how any of this could possibly go wrong. Oh, well, you will, said Miss Jenny cheekily. What does that mean? Said Sir Topham Hatt. Wait and see, my good friend. Elementary, my dear Topham. Perhaps you'll go back to college pretty soon. Perhaps, boomed Sir Topham Hatt. Blake was at Napford Station with Dominic. This, said Dominic, is Napford Station. Yes, I know, said Blake. I've been here before. Well, I don't understand why the Fat Controller ordered me to show you about then, said Dominic. Then Thomas the Tank Engine arrived. He was billowing black smoke and puffing broadly. His cheeks were as red as Flynn and James's bright red paintwork. Whew, said Thomas. At last we've stopped. Oh my, Thomas, said Philip. Are you all right? You look puffed out. There's nothing wrong with me, huffed Thomas. But you're billowing black smoke. Then, as passengers trotted to board Annie and Clarabelle, the very important passengers held Clarabelle's doors closed. Please, no boarding here, they demanded. So all the passengers crowded in Annie, and they were very upset. The other engines at the station were amazed. The guard blew the whistle and Thomas steamed away, billowing even more black smoke than he had arrived. As Thomas puffed past Tidman's shed, sparks flew from his funnel and landed on the rails. But Thomas didn't know this. He was worried about how he was now shuddering. Annie and Clarabelle were worried. Then they puffed along the old Quarry Road. Stop, Thomas, came a voice. It was Daisy, the diesel rail car. She could see that Thomas was in trouble. There's something wrong with you. You're billowing black smoke, she called. There's nothing wrong with me, huffed Thomas, as cocky as he could. He puffed arrogantly away, but Daisy chased him down the branch line. At last, Daisy caught up with Thomas. Stop, Thomas! Stop, Thomas! She squeaked. At last, Thomas came to a stop, and with one final clangety-clong, Thomas gave up and decided to tell Daisy the truth. You're doing this because of Toby? She puffed. Yes, I am, whispered Thomas sadly. I miss that good old Toby, but he doesn't seem to see it that way. He seems to think that all we ever do is argue. Thomas, just because Toby sees it one way doesn't mean you have to hurt yourself. Because he can't see it the way you see it, you're still going to be just fine and just friends. The men stepped angrily out of the coach. Just take us back to the mainland already. We don't even want to see Miss Packard now after all this shenanigans. Don't worry, said Daisy. I'll take you along. I'm a rail car and I don't need silly coaches. All right, said the men. Just take us to the docks and we'll catch our train to Vicarstown and beyond. So that's what they did. Daisy took the men and Thomas to the works. All the engines wondered why Thomas was being carried along by Daisy. At the works, Thomas joked. I'm worried about Toby leaving, but I'd be just fine if Henry and Edward relocated just a little bit. Stepney laughed. Well, Thomas, you never manage to make me angry. You always make me smile. That's the way I like it. And Daisy took the special men to Brandon Docks. Here you are, said Daisy. Right on time. You can catch your train to Vicarstown and beyond, as you call it. Thank you, said the men. You're much more better than that Thomas in that alligator train. Then Flynn rushed through. Fire! There's a fire at Tidman's sheds. Fiery Flynn to the rescue, he called. And he raced along with his trailer in tow. Otherwise, he could not fight fires. As Flynn was speeding along the line, he passed Janessa and his trailer uncoupled. He could now not fight the fire. When Flynn arrived, Sir Topham Hatt called to him, Flynn, you must fight this fire, but where is your trailer? Oh no, sir. I must have lost it on the way, but I'll try my best. So Flynn raised his ladder, and he tried his very hardest to fight the fire, but it was no good. Belle could see. Look at Flynn. He can do the job by himself. Sir Topham Hatt doesn't need me. That fathead has Flynn now. Look at Flynn. He's so much better than I am. And she puffed quickly away. I'll go use myself elsewhere. But the fate of Tidman's sheds rested in Flynn's hands. James came along later that day and saw the trailer on the tracks. Finally, he said, I'll dispose of it properly. He whistled. Good enough, said James. That's the last of Flynn will ever see of that trailer.